Welcome to another edition of Taking a Deeper Look. Shalom, everybody. How you feeling, my brother?
I'm interested to see how this is gonna go. I'm feeling good. I'm
Absolutely.
eager, excited. To me, I don't know. To me, just me. I
Hmm.
think tonight could be very informative from a standpoint, at least giving a concise picture as to things that are happening to us and why it even tie into what you brought out Monday, not this past Monday, but the Monday before. Um, as far as I need to get back in connection with our God.
Mm.
Yeah.
Shalom, everybody. Again, we appreciate you all coming to Taking a Deeper Look. If we can be heard nice and clear, please put a one in the chat. If we could be nice, I'm sorry, if we could be heard nice and clear, please put a one in the chat.
In the chat. In the
You can
chat.
be heard nice and clear. Please put a one in the chat. Again, we appreciate you guys.
Yes,
My
Lord.
sister. All right. So, yes, I see the ones. All praises to the Most High. So, again, we appreciate you all coming to uh, taking a deeper look. We're looking, this is part two. We're just talking with my brother. It looks like we may be doing maybe a three and a four, depending on how deep this rabbit hole we want to go.
Yeah.
Um, a couple of quick things before we get started. We will be doing so. The format that we've decided to run with is
Mm-hmm.
uh, One Flesh and Taking a Deeper Look will be on Thursdays,
Mm-hmm.
alternating Thursdays. So obviously tonight it's Taking a Deeper Look. Next Thursday it will be One Flesh. So again, One Flesh is for married couples and single people. We're talking about relationships and we're basing it from scripture. And then we will sort of like what the king said to his disciples, start in Judea
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of spread out. So the 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 home is the scriptures, and then we spread it out.
Yeah.
The One Flesh, the title is When Love Isn't Enough.
Mm.
When love is not enough. And we're going to be looking at the story of the husband and the wife in First Samuel,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Samuel's parents. So again, next week, next Thursday, 8 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
right here on Taking a Deeper Look, we will be having One Flesh. And again, that topic is when love isn't enough. So again, if you all can come out and support that, we'd greatly appreciate it. But tonight, again, we're looking at fathers in the
Mm-hmm.
home. If you haven't checked out was it last week?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
last week's. Please go back and look at part one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, we're coming with part two tonight. So again, we're looking for a great conversation. If you have any comments, if you want to come up and engage on stage,
We would love it.
we'll definitely put that link in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be happy for anyone that would like to come on stage and chop it up with us. So, my brother, I'm gonna put it in your hands.
All right. All praises. With that being said, again, shout out to the family. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to my brother, man, who kind of gives me space to rock out. A lot of times we may bounce ideas, but we really, when I say none of this is scripted or planned, none of this is scripted or planned. We really kind of just play off of each other and just let the Most High take us where He will. And so, this whole thing, as far as the hearts of the fathers to the children, We're going to go back and review that scripture, because when you look at what we talked about last week, a lot of things that we talked about last week, we were trying to give background, we were trying to give context, historical context, even as far as, you know, the verses, the scriptures, you know, Hebraically, what is a father? You know, a strong house. You know, what is a mother? Strong glue or strong liquid. You know, look as being glue. What is a child? The house of the seed, or continuing of the seed. And so, in order for this to continue, if you guys have an opportunity, I can't. I think he did do. I think we did do a deeper look. I would say even not last week's lesson, but the same week, my brother did a lesson. You see the man looking in the mirror at himself. Go to that one first, because what has happened with us as a nation is we've gotten to the point that we've gotten away from our God. We've gotten away from our God. We've gotten away from our God. And so because we've gotten away from our God, he says, according to Hosea 4:6, you will be no priest unto me because you rejected my commandments. And because you rejected my commandments, I will forget your children. And so this thing is being played out in real time, because you see it in our actions. You see it all over social media platforms, especially even though we're not the only group of people or the only ethnic group who out here acting up, wilding out in these streets, but yet we're the ones that's shown the most. We're the ones that's marketed the most. We're the ones that are perpetuated, to the point where, again, I say this again, the definition of Black fatigue has been hijacked, because it's become a in thing for Black people to get on and verbally berate us for our flaws or shortcomings. And while I'm for holding us accountable, I know my brother is for holding us accountable. If you go back and look at the last message on Monday, not this past Monday, but the Monday before last, the man looking in the mirror, go back and look at that. We believe in accountability. Those that the Most High has graced us to be able to be under shepherds for, no, we've sat in council. Everybody gets it. Everybody, there's no such thing as we're trying to play favorites here or let somebody get away with it. No, everybody gets it. And so with that being said, we believe in accountability, but there has to be a balance to the message concerning the state of us as a people, concerning the state of us as a so-called Black community, where if you're going to point to me how flawed I am, how terrible I am, how depraved I am, you got to show me the way of salvation. You got to teach me the way of salvation. And so hopefully with these series of lessons or understanding, we begin to hopefully paint the path for those that will give us ear, for those that will listen, and those that will like, share, subscribe, or whatever, so that this can kind of help get out to the rest of our family across Israel. And so that's what the motivation is behind this, because the same Father that said in Hebrews 4:6, Hosea 4:6, you are no priest unto me, and I will forget your children, is the same Father that promised us. And I'm gonna go to the verse. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and share it.
While you're doing that,
Yes,
I was looking at something on YouTube, and I was looking at a young Asian.
That's interesting.
Could have been no more than maybe 8, and she was in the discipline of martial arts, and she was doing her backflips, and you can tell the discipline even at that age. You could look at her mental strength, her physical strength, as she was doing her backflips and her stretches and her splits and the movements of a martial artist. I thought to myself, and I'm looking at the other children, you could tell she was trained in this maybe like a 1 year old. The girl, she know what she's doing. I could tell she was maybe the leader because there was several children behind her. As I'm watching these Asians and this discipline of martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
I said to Charlotte, said, now while they're in discipline of martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
what what are our children doing?
Mm-hmm.
They twerking, they, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it's
looking at
real.
I'm looking at these Asians and they're doing something. And I'm like, and I look
Mm-hmm.
at our people and I'm like, at 8 year old, at 7, they know how to back that thing up.
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. But that's to the point of the word. Even we talked about last week, what a commandment is: fathers, train your child up in the way that it should go. It's something that you mentioned Asian specifically. There's going to be some things that statistically tonight we're going to talk about concerning Asian households. So it's interesting that you bring them up because they do some things. We'll talk about it. But with that being said, to your point, let's go back to the foundation of this series of talk, the series of lessons. It says, remember the law of Moses, my servant, even the statutes. I'm reading out of the LSB version, so it reads a little bit different than the KJV, but it's word for word. It says, remember the law of Moses, my servant, even the statutes and judgments which I commanded him at Horeb for all Israel. So the Father's already telling us, remember his law, remember his law, remember his way, because that's all he knows. Verse 5, behold, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet before the coming great and awesome day of the Most High, of Yahweh. And so we went back, we looked at Elijah, we looked at the time that Elijah came. We're not going to belabor that point. It's not talking about any reincarnation or anything like that, but it's talking about the state of being that was happening during the time of Elijah is happening now, where people are introducing to our children, especially because the fathers are not stepping up or not in the home or not moving how we're supposed to move. They're introducing another way to our children that the Most High is not condoning, not moving with. So he's saying, I'm sending the spirit of Elijah to challenge, to confront this way. Verse 6, and he said, I will turn the hearts of the fathers, Ab, the Hebrew word Ab, representing strong house, to their children, children representing the Bain and Noon, representing the house, continuing of the seed or the continuing of the house. So whatever the Father is showing, whatever the Father is presenting, whatever the Father is teaching, whatever the Father is demonstrating, that is what the children will continue. Remember, he said in Psalms 1 and 6, I only know the way of the righteous. The Father only knows, or he's experienced or intimate with one way. That one way is his Torah. He said, and the hearts of the children to the Father, lest I come and strike the land, voting it to destruction. Let me grab another verse, just setting a little scriptural background before we move into some other things and information. Let me go to Psalms. And bro, feel free to jump in at any time if anything comes to mind as we set the groundwork for this. Psalms
Yes,
19,
follow me,
17.
brother.
I mean, yes, sir. Psalms 9 and 17 says, let me go to it. It says, the wicked will return to Sheol or hell, even all the nations that forget God. So we know that when we don't follow his commandments, we forgot him. It says that a nation, basically a nation that forgets his God, shall be turned into hell or turned into Sheol, turned into the grave. And so as we talk about this, it's important for us to think about what our role is, one, as fathers, and our role is in the family, and what kind of legacy, if we're here producing children, producing seed, what kind of legacy are we leaving behind? So as we get a little bit deeper in this, I want to play a video for us real quick, kind of to help set the tone for tonight and kind of just get us going and get us thinking as we set some scriptural background, but as we get more into this, especially when you understand why we went with the title that we went with. Let me go to this. Let me share the tab. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't need to make it bigger or anything.
Yeah, it would probably help if you did.
Okay, let me see something. Okay. That good?
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right.
Harrison is doing. He made a post on X today saying there's been a dramatic decline in the structure of Black families in the past 6 decades. He says this decline has led to negative consequences such as increased rates of fatherless.
My fault, fair use. This is for educational purposes. Fair use. Now, mind you, he said in the last 6 decades. So we are talking about an extensive period of time that we've been in this condition, but fair use.
Households, which are linked to behavioral issues, aggression, and higher crime rates among boys. Let's go ahead and bring in Reverend Harrison now for our unfiltered conversation. Reverend, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Why did you feel the need to make this post?
Well, I really felt the need to make the post because I have, been having conversations with leaders in the city and really across the country about what are the issues that are driving urban youth violence. And it is a big topic right now, not just in Indianapolis, but all across the country. And one of the issues that I think should be rise to the surface is certainly the issue of broken families and the impact of the lack of fathers in the households, particularly within the Black community, and that dramatic change that has occurred, within my lifetime. Being born in 1960, I have certainly witnessed this dramatic shift and the impact that it has had on young Black men, particularly those who are most at risk, who tend to be a part of the judicial system, are those who are most likely to be the victims and suspects of violent crimes.
And Reverend, you also brought up some statistics about the impact from absent fathers. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, when you talk about, what the studies are showing, particularly when, in the Black community, about 44% of Black children are born into 2-parent households with their fathers compared to white America, that's about 76%. Studies have shown that most young African Americans who tend to get in trouble with the judicial system come from single parent households, and it tends to lead to behavioral problems. And many of those young men tend to seek for love in the wrong places where they feel like they're not getting that attention at home. They tend to gravitate and form these kind of bonds in the street that may lead them into drug trafficking or becoming a part of gangs that leads them down a wrong path in life. And I shared some of those statistics based on my own experience growing up, in the Jeffersonville, Louisville, Kentucky area, and seeing that impact on my step brother, who did not have the father figure in his life that I believe also led to his tragic death.
What type of reaction do you get when you bring up this topic?
I get both positive and negative reactions, within the community. There are those who feel like, that I'm there, airing the dirty laundry, of what's happening in the Black community, and I should not talk about it as publicly as I do. And others say, Reverend, you're right on target, and you need to be a voice, that begins to really talk about this issue, because unless we address this issue, I believe you're going to continue to have this problem of the disproportionate amount of young Black males that are impacted by crime and violence in cities across the country. We have to address the issue of fatherlessness and the breakdown in the Black family if we're going to correct this issue of urban youth violence.
You mentioned rebuilding Black families is essential, you say, in addressing urban violence. So how does the community go about that?
I think certainly we have to have a conversation about what is causing it, and to begin to strategize as to how we reverse that. And I don't think we have had a real serious conversation about that as a community. Individually do, but collectively as a community, we have not had those difficult conversations.
One last final question for you. What's your message to anyone who may be watching this or maybe who have seen your post?
Let's talk. Let's begin the conversation. We got to have this conversation as the broader community if we want to reverse these numbers that all of us want to see reversed and to save our children from violence and prison.
It's a tough conversation, ongoing discussion as well. Reverend Harrison, always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us on Unfiltered.
Thank you for having me.
Before you carry on, Benya, I wanted to say something. As he was talking about, the lack of fathers in the home.
Yes,
I can remember my father. My father, his father was in the home, but he wasn't present.
yeah.
He didn't teach him anything righteous. My father knew nothing about the Most High, wasn't made to go to church. What he knew of God, he learned when he met my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But even though his father didn't teach him what it meant to be a man,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't teach him the things of the Most High, he knew within himself, this is not right. And he said, if I ever have children, I'm not going to do this. So before we go deep into this, we're talking about the lack of fathers. But at some point, the children should look at the acts of the parents and have something within themselves saying, you know what? I'm going to be a difference. I'm going to be a change maker. Because my father had no spiritual guidance. Matter of fact, his whole side of the family growing up was the world. I remember growing up, my mother's side of the family was all God. My father's side of the family was all world.
Yes, sir.
And we enjoy going to, now I personally enjoy going to church, but I also enjoy going to my dad's side of the family because they were the weed smoking. They were playing spades and dominoes and playing with loud music. The kids is ripping and running. But there was no righteous teaching. There was no righteous example on my father's side. But for whatever reason, he had a righteous seed in him because he recognized, I got to do things different. So as we track on, at some point, the children have to have some responsibility to whether there was a father in the home or whether it wasn't a father in the home. Because you'll take a person, a child who had a father and did everything a father should do, and their choices, they still go out and do what they do. You had a child who had a father in the home, but he was an absent father. And then they went and still did what they did. And then you had that child who, like my father, had a father in the home, but was not present. But yet, even though he didn't have that direction, something was directing him on the inside. And I'll go into you right there.
And it's crazy that you even take it that way with what you're bringing up. I mean, from me, just from personal, and I won't go too deep. I know you know my story, my story on my side. You know, those that are close to me know my story. There are certain things, and I won't, because that's my pops and I love him. I would say this: he was a young man, and he did stuff that no child molester or anything like that for people minding. But there were certain behaviors that I saw from him early on that because I had a son, I didn't want my son to see me in that way because I understood what it did to me as a child. And so, to your point, yeah, there's a part of us that has to step up and say, you know what, despite what I didn't need to see this perfect home environment. I just say that to know that if I did this to my wife, that's wrong. And I didn't need to see, you know, I just say to your point, that and that'll let you know that the spirit of the Most High, not to over spiritualize everything, but He's real, because there are just some people that for whatever reason they choose to do the right thing regardless of what's presented in front of them. And so shout out to the Most High, and shout out to pops who recognize, I'm talking about your pops, who recognize this ain't good. I got a son, and I want my son to not do what it is that, I want to show my son what I wasn't shown growing up in order for, him to be the man that he is. And so, yeah, there's a lot that's to that, to what you said. And so there's a lot of interaction from the chat. I know I see our brother JP is in the chat, and I think he's talking about we got a real, and it's crazy because we talked about a lot of that last week. I know he definitely got a lot of input as far as what is the contributing factor. We talked about a few other contributing factors last week in historical context when we talked about shifting of jobs, changing the economy. He brings up the political angle and how we've been duped from that standpoint. And so there's a lot of factors that lead to the fatherless environment. And I'm not able to follow the chat like I want to, but there's a lot of things that are going on.
Follow that.
Okay, I'll let you govern that, and I'll just go ahead and get to the scriptures and then get to the other information. But there's a lot of things when you talk about that leads to the fathers not being in the picture, or fathers not showing up in the home like they should in order to be effective. The biggest thing is we've gotten away from our God. And because we've gotten away from our God, what happens is now you're seeing this condition that's played out in our children, because He only knows one way. He only knows one way. And so if our hearts are going to be truly turned back to our children, we got to turn our children, or teach our children, the ways of the Most High. That's really what this boils down to. And so as we look a little bit further, we talk about things to the aspect of, especially when we get older as men, we start to think about these things. The thought of legacy comes up. What are you leaving behind for your kids? What are you leaving behind for your children?
Bro.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Just real quick, I put the link in the chat if there's anyone that'd like to come on stage.
Mm-hmm.
The link is in the chat. Go ahead, my brother.
Yes, sir. What are you leaving behind for your kids? What do you want to show your kids? What legacy do you want to leave your kids? Because that starts to matter. We look at our forefather Abraham, according to the text. When he had accumulated an abundance, and the Most High shows up and tells him, "Fear not, I'm your strong tower, your protector," everything that he is to him. The first thing that Abraham says is, listen, I got all this abundance. Who am I going to leave it to? Who am I going to leave it to? And the Most High assured Abraham that he will have a seed. And so even when you talk about men, true fathers care about, when I leave the scene, because I'm not going to live forever. When I leave the scene, what am I leaving behind for our children? That's true fathers. What has changed or what has shifted over time is that heart that the father had, that our forefather Abraham had, that we as fathers are supposed to have. You don't see that really being played out in the family dynamic or the family unit. Matter of fact, when you even look at over time, we've been so long with a impoverished mindset, impoverished thinking, that we are constantly living in what I understand to be in survival mode. we're content with getting across or getting by day to day, but we never commit to any true action that sets a long-term or a lasting legacy for our family. So let me just lay a couple scriptural backgrounds and just kind of get into this as we look further into this. Let me go to let me go to this verse. Let me go to Proverbs. Let me go to Proverbs 13:22. 13:22. I guess I need to share my screen. Be share. Proverbs 13:22. And it says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. There's so much to that particular verse. On the surface, we're talking about an inheritance. Now, we understand, according to the text, according to the scriptures, especially according to this book, it's not just talking about a natural inheritance. The inheritance, the understanding of the Most High, the understanding of the Torah, all of that goes into play. Matter of fact, when you look at Solomon, the king, Solomon was the king, and he asked the Most High for wisdom. And because he asked the Most High for wisdom, the Most High blessed him with everything naturally, from a standpoint that he had something to pass down to his children and children's children, so forth and so on. And so it wasn't that when Solomon asked for wisdom, all the Most High just gave him was wisdom. So when we understand the scripture, we talk about a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. I was even talking to my youngest daughter yesterday, and she blessed me because she said, what you taught us, your voice continues to linger in our head. And what you taught us from a spiritual standpoint is worth more than anything else that you could ever give us. And so when she said that to me, it blessed me because she understands that this way that we're trying to learn, this way that we're trying to walk is more important than big bags of money in our pocket or the driving the finest car, etc. She understood that that relationship or that connection to the Most High is key, is the most important thing. And so even when you talk about this inheritance, we understand looking at this, that the inheritance that is being talked about is not just talking about money. It's talking about a relationship and a connection. But because there's a relationship and a connection to the Most High, as we referenced previously, our forefather Abraham, he was a blessed man. He was blessed beyond measure because he sought the way of the Most High. He sought the wisdom, the counsel of the Most High. And so he lived a life in such a way that he had something to pass down to Isaac. Isaac has something to pass down to Jacob, and Jacob has something to pass to all 12 of his sons and his and all his wives. And so this is not just a natural walk, a spiritual walk. There's some natural connections that are made with the Most High due to obedience. And so there's a part that comes into play when you talk about the impact of inheritance, the impact of money, the impact of a righteous father, a father that's moving according to the ways of the Most High, moving according to the Spirit, or just being present in the home the right way that sets the family up for success. Now, what that looks like varies from family to family. You have some families, they may never get all the kind of money that some other families have, but yet their ways are prospering, they're moving, their children are elevating, their children's children are elevating. And so there's a legacy that's passed on from generation to generation. But yet at the same time, each generation is a little bit better off than the previous generation. You look at Ecclesiastes 10 and 19. Let me go to it. Ecclesiastes 10 and 19. Like I said, brother, jump in whenever you want. Go ahead.
Can you guys see the do you guys see my comments? Can y'all see the link? put a one in the chat if you guys can see the link. I'm getting some okay. Do you see it, JP? Oh, because I was getting some feedback on my end, like it wasn't going through, so I didn't know if. Okay, go ahead, Benya. Hopefully he sees the link.
Okay. With that being said, Ecclesiastes 10:19, it says, "Men prepare bread for laughter, and wine makes life glad, and money is the answer to everything." And so, again, we're not talking about loving money.
Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
You said something about Abraham having wealth, but he didn't have a son. And there's something that has to be said or needs to be said from the Father, from the Most High's perspective, on the importance of land, because his passion was to give him a land. So you were talking about this inheritance, and even when you look at Torah, that he wanted them to stay within their tribes, because of this inheritance or this land that should be passed down from generation to generation. So I think there's a lot to be said how we should be moving as Israelites. I think I understand Christ said you'll always have the poor with you. I get there's just some that's just going to be lazy. There's just going to be some that's going to be ignorant. That I understand.
Yes, sir.
But I think there's something that should be said for the majority of Israel. We should be moving and operating, for lack of a better term, on a different or higher frequency. I yield there.
Agreed. I mean, and you see it. Like I said, to me, okay, we can go back even when you look at Joseph. Joseph wasn't a poor man. The Most High, because he committed his ways to the Most High prospered him. Like, so when you look at our ancestors, these dudes wasn't broke. Abraham, he wasn't broke. You talk about, of course, Solomon. Solomon was one of the most blessed men to ever live. His father David set him up sweet, and then only that, but because he sought the Most High for wisdom on how to lead the people, the Most High blessed him even more. So you see it played out when we commit to the Father. Yes, there's a spiritual connection, there's a spiritual blessing, there's an understanding, but there's also a natural manifestation too that's played out. It's not, well, we be poor and ragged all our lives, and yet when the rest of the world sees us, they're like, man, they got this God on their side, and this God, I guess he's blessing them with all kinds of spiritual blessings, but yet at the same time, there's nothing else that they see that will want them to serve that God. That becomes problematic. And then they're not trying to promote stuff. Listen, we know what Luke 12:15 says. We know, when it talks about life don't consist in abundance of things. That's not what we're pushing or promoting here. We're just talking about the impact or the effect that the Most High has on the lives of those who are truly walking with him and truly believing in him. We know what Mark, I think, is 8:36 says, where it talks about what profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul. So I'm not oblivious to these scriptures. I'm not oblivious to these texts. I'm saying when you have a righteous father in the house, the foundation for you and the children should be a foundation of blessing. There should be a building of blessing. And so with that being said, that should be that. Abraham is a manifestation of it. Joseph is a manifestation of it. You have several fathers who were able to pass down inheritance, land, increase to their children just by walking in obedience to the Most High. That's what we've gotten away from. That's why when we look at the text in Malachi 4 and 6, and it talks about the heart of the father being returned to the children, the manifestation of it is these natural things. So let's look at what we're dealing with. Because the man in the video, the preacher in the video, he said, we're talking about the past few decades. So when we look at the 60s, we look at the 70s, 80s, 90s, on up to present, we're seeing what needs to the impact of a father in the home, and the fact that these things need to increase. To our brother JP's point, also and I know he wants to speak to that, and I'll leave him to speak to that because he's more well versed in that than I am. But the political affiliation is big. We were not originally people who were democratic. We were not democratic. We didn't really become democratic until I think like the civil rights era, like in the 60s. And maybe he can speak. I don't know if he can't come to the stage, he can speak to that in the chat. But when you talk,
do you have the ability? Do you have the? I'm sorry. Do you have the ability to send it to your Facebook? The link.
Me?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me see something. Let me see if I can grab it. I thought he had to open up his StreamYard and use the link, copy the link, and open up on StreamYard. Let me see something. That's share the screen.
Again, we appreciate you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Again, hit that like button. Please share.
Let's see something. See if I can open it. You're on Facebook.
Give us one moment, family. We appreciate your patience.
Let me see. I see it showing. Let me go to my page. Okay, how do I post from here? This is all new to me on this part. Let me see. See alerts. Okay. Okay. I'm posting. Okay, so I posted to my wall for those that are trying to get on our StreamYard. If you're on Facebook, I posted the link to StreamYard. So you can try it that way. Hopefully it's something that'll work. Other than that, I'm about to log off of here, off of that. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, but let's get into it. Let's get into a little bit more from the standpoint of, we talk about legacy, inheritance, land, money, what is being left behind. Let's look at some history or some information. So when you talk about it, let me share the tab. Can you see my screen?
Make it a little bigger.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just a tad. Yep, that looks good.
I'm not going to re-click all the links. Okay. I'm not going to re-click all the links because, yeah, probably my laptop won't act right. If that's Brother Jay, let me know when you want to talk. I'm starting at the 60s. I'm just going to build this picture. We talk in the 1960s, the median income for Black men 14 years and older was $2,300 a year. That was the median income. For Black women, it was $900 a year, because individuals work part-time or seasonal jobs. These figures represent overall personal earnings across the year rather than a full-time wage. Specific Black men and women highlight several economic trends. Significant wage growth in the 60s was critical to the wage improvement by 1969. the median in earnings of black men had increased around 64% of white men's earnings. Black men moved from low-paying agriculture into better-paying manufacturing, which is what we talked about last week, manufacturing and service jobs during this period. Black women saw significant wage growth in the 1960s and 70s, earning increased relative to white women, white men, and black men. So when you look at during this time, especially in the 60s, black women were making the least out of every group. The overall gap, despite these improvements, black workers still faced steep inequity in the 1960s. The median black family income was about 55% of the median white family income, a gap that changed very little throughout the decades. Is our brother up here?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Because I know you want to bring up the other context, and I definitely would love you to share that because you know more about that. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I'll let you guys stick to the scripture. I just want to discuss two issues, and one is coming from a psychological perspective because I'm a therapist, and the other one is coming from a historical perspective. We know there's plenty of scriptures to understand our condition, but there's one scripture that sticks out that I believe everything kind of matriculates from. And that scripture is, I wish in all things that you prosper as your soul prospers. Mm-hmm. That scripture is key because when it refers to us prospering as our soul prospers, that deals with our morality, that deals with our Yali conscience, that deals with our culture. And when our culture begins to decrease, everything in our lives begin to decrease. That's one thing we have to understand. You can go back and look at pictures of your family I can't find any picture of my grandmother and my grandfather where they were not dressed up. I can't find one where my grandfather doesn't have on suspenders, my grandmother doesn't have on a nice dress. I can barely find any pictures of my father not dressed up. I'm talking dressed nice, the way they carried themselves. They may have not been walking perfectly in the ways of Yah, but there's a culture that they carried. There was a conscience that they carried. There was a dignity that they carried. You wouldn't dare catch many women like my grandmother going out in public looking a mess. It was almost unheard of. But now it's part of our culture because our souls have decreased, then everything else decreases. And somebody said that's so true. I mean, some of y'all can attest to this. There was a time when we were proud to look sharp. I'm talking proud to look sharp. There was a time when we were proud to wear Stacey Adams shoes and suspenders and a bow tie. Now, our kids, it could be 120 degrees outside. They walk around with hoodies on in the dark because everything is dark, everything around you. The language that we use, the way we used to greet each other. Mm-hmm. I was watching Andre Borkins talk about how our culture is bullies. I said there was a time where our culture was not bullies. There was a time where we greeted each other as soul brothers. I remember that. There was a time where we greeted each other as "What's up, cat daddy?" And you could speak to another man. You could look across the room. Now, if we look at each other wrong, we could end up in a hostile situation. Mm-hmm. We have to go back to what caused this because this is actually a recent phenomenon. This is not This is not something that stems back to 100 years ago. This is a recent phenomenon that started around a little over 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when we look at our men, I don't think we understand the psychological perspective of what happens to a young man. We cannot leave. Oh, I'm just looking. I'm sorry. I got a habit of looking at comments.
Yeah, you stay focused.
I remember when we look at our men, I don't think we understand the psychological effect on our men when there's no father in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the father is not following the ways of the Most High,
But he's present.
he's present and he still carries a role.
Mm-hmm.
So when that father is removed and that young man grows up with his mother, and this is not to knock single mothers, because there's some single mothers that have done wonderful jobs with young men and young women, but I'm not talking specifically, I'm talking in general.
Mm-hmm.
When he's not used to constantly hearing the voice of a man in the house, correcting him, disciplining him, challenging him,
Mm-hmm.
when he grows up and now he hears a man's voice that challenge him, everything is hostile toward him because he's not used to hearing a man's voice to challenge him.
Yeah.
We don't understand the psychological aspects of a young man who's 15 and 16 still getting beat by a woman, still getting whoopings by a woman. I'm thinking, like, do you guys not know the effect of a man? Because at 15, 16, he's a man already. He's not a child. But his mother still looks at him as a child, still calls him her baby, and will still try to beat him at that age if he does something wrong. And then he grows up and he's very emotional about everything.
Mm-hmm.
He gets triggered very fast about everything. When he hears the voice of another man challenging him, he doesn't know how to handle that because he's not used to being challenged by a man's voice.
Mm-hmm. So
these are things we have to understand the root cause of a thing to reverse a thing. I watched the video of the elder speaking, and I'm hoping there's more to that video because I'm thinking, okay, he's right, but he's not addressing where did we go wrong? Where did we make this turn? Now, I grew up with.
Now, are you talking from a socio-political standpoint, or are you talking? Because I mean, it's hard for that elder. I get what you're saying. It's hard for that elder in a 5-minute news segment to go deep. Like right now, we got time to really deal with this and stretch out. So when you talk about where this started, I would definitely love to hear your input on that because I know that you have a perspective.
Well, I think one of the mistake we make as a people is we separate politics from scripture.
Mm-hmm.
But nowhere in scripture do they separate politics from scripture. We think we don't have to get involved or be knowledgeable of political things. We just have to be spiritual. And I said, guys, that's totally not what scripture shows us, because here's what we got to understand. The scripture says when the righteous are in authority,
Mm-hmm.
the people rejoice. Kings who ruled nations, they got to declare and decree how that nation was going to act.
Yeah.
How the way that nation was going to turn. So, and kings are the ones who declare policies that
Yes,
the
sir.
nation follows those policies.
Yes, sir.
So there was a time in our culture as men that being effeminate was almost unheard of. It was almost taboo. So you have to ask yourself, how did our culture go from being a masculine culture where almost being effeminate was taboo to what now where it's common, where it's a commonplace. And if you speak against it, you're almost the one who's corrected and called all type of names if you speak against it. Where did that turn? Under what king? Under what agenda? We have to go back and unravel these things. Now we can talk about the curse. I believe part of it is the biblical curse. I believe part of it is where the Most High turns people over to strong delusion. But we still have to go back and be able to talk about those things in a mature way, where we don't get so caught up on media talking points that we've gotten from Fox News or CNN or whatever, where we can just talk about, here's what caused us to accept this. Here's what caused us to accept this. This king, and we used to name biblically king. We could just use president or an administration.
Yeah.
This is what this administration brought in. This is what this administration brought in. And how it affects our people. It affects the entire nation, but specifically, how does it affect the Black community?
Mm-hmm.
So those are part of the conversations that we need to start having as a people, and we need to be able to. I listened to something, and I'm going to segue, but I don't want to talk. This is not my talking point. As a therapist, I analyze things. So I watched the what's the young man who just was on trial who got 35 years?
Carmelo. Mm-hmm.
I watched the Carmelo Anthony videos many times, not to see what happened under the tent, but to listen to Carmelo Anthony. I was like, okay, we see what happened under the tent. I want to get into this young man's head, because that's part of what I do. And I heard him say something very key that clicked with me. He said, and he was emotional about it. He said, he put his hands on me. He put his hands on me. Right then, I got it. I got it. I said, this is a man that's emotional. He grew up with a mother who's saying, baby, don't let nobody put their hands on you. Don't let nobody put their hands on you. And we grew up with this culture where if you don't fight them, then guess what? I'm going to fight you.
Let me ask you a question. Can I offer a little kickback on that? And thank you for coming up and having the dialogue. I grew up with a man. Like my dad, anybody know my dad? No, he's a man. There's no such thing as me coming. Now, my dad never told me to go out and stab anybody. My dad said, if they put their hands on you, you don't start the fight, but you finish it. But my dad told me to fight. Now, is that emotional, or because I got to defend myself? Now, I'm not saying that. Go ahead.
Here's what we have to understand, and this is no knock on women. We have to understand that we don't carry the same emotions. We don't carry the same emotional energy. That's why the scripture tells us to, even when we dwell with our wives, dwell with them according to understanding. Mm-hmm. Because we think different. We can say two things. We can say the same thing to our children, but we're thinking totally different.
Mm-hmm.
We're thinking totally different. So a father can say, "Don't let nobody put their hands on you." A mother can say, have nobody put their hands on you. But a father is not saying it from the perspective of, "Cause you my little baby." You my little baby, and don't let nobody put your hands on you. You my little baby.
Mm-hmm.
He's not saying it with that type of personality and energy. So there comes a context to it that's very important, Because what happens when the police put their hands on you? What happens when the principal put his hands on you? What happens when the coach put his hands on you? Because I grew up where coaches will put their hands on you.
Me too.
So everything has a context to it, and you can hear this in the language of of how the mothers look at their grown children, even though their child is 25 and he's standing in front of a judge for capital murder. This is my baby, he's my baby. He's just a baby. And I'm thinking, he stopped being a baby at the age of 13. But so the absence of because a young man normally gets his masculinity, and masculinity is, I'm not talking bravado. I'm talking how a man processes things. How a man processes things. How a man says, okay, yes, this is Laquita in school. She put her hands on me. I'm not going to drag Laquita by her braids because she put her hands on me. But I may punch Trayvon in the mouth, but I'm not going to grab Laquita by her braids just because she put her hands on me. Because masculine energy knows the context of a thing, not just what is spoken to us. But when something is spoken to us, but it's spoken to us through feminine energy, we don't process everything out. I'm speaking from a psychological perspective. We don't process everything out. We don't process, okay, this is Laquita. I can't drag her down the hallway by her braids just because she put her hands on me. I mean, that's not what I do. I mean, I'm bigger than her. I'm stronger than her. Yes, she can be a little ratchet, but that's not how I conduct myself as a male. When you don't have the father who, and I'm talking in general, where the son can process, okay, this is what my dad meant when he said, don't put his hands on me. He doesn't mean fight everybody who touches me or put their hands on me. There's a context to it. So those are the areas that, at some time we need to dive deep into the psychological mindset of that and address the effects, the psychological effects of when a man is not in the home, because you got to understand, a man in the home, it's hard to find that biblically. It's very rare where you find a man not in a home from a biblical perspective. So we can put a lot of script on it, but that script is even in the context of the man being there. Right. You know what I mean? It's even. Go ahead.
Yeah, because to the point of what you're saying, I want you, because you said something in the chat, and you said something. Now you've laid a lot of context, a lot of background, as far as where we are, but you said we got to get to the source of the problem. And I want you to kind of talk or speak to that, because one thing that, I notice is that when a dad is not in the home, one of the things that we wanted to get into it a little bit tonight, when a dad is not in the home, even if we are not making the money that supposed white houses make or Asian houses make from a median income standpoint, you still don't have a lot of the foolishness that's going on in a Black family because a dad is in the home. But you said something in the chat as far as understanding the source of it. And I wanted you to kind of maybe even speak to that, because I think you said something about the Democratic Party in the chat or whatever, but can you please speak to that? Because once we kind of can understand the source, then maybe we can start talking to some solutions.
Well, let me say this. I'm an independent thinker. I'm not a Democrat nor Republican. I'm an independent thinker. And I pride myself. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a researcher. I'm someone who actually enjoys doing research.
Mhm.
I could stay up to 6 o'clock in the morning researching things because that's what I love to do. And I grew up in a culture that was 99.9% Democrat. But back then I didn't think about politics. I was just, a young 15-year-old driving his grandmother to the welfare office and to the food stamp line, standing in line for government cheese and cereal that came in a plastic bag and powdered milk and all of that. I was just that guy.
Hated powdered milk. God, that's nasty. Go ahead.
And when I got older, I started looking at the Black community and what took the Black community from being a very prominent community who owned land and had good jobs and dressed nice and drove Cadillacs and all those things to this social mindset of the government takes care of me, the government gives me this, the government gives me that. And you can it's amazing that the gentleman, that the elder said 60 years. That's because you can almost go back to about 60, a little over 60 years.
Yeah.
Part of it was with the civil rights movement. No disrespect toward anybody, and I'm not throwing shade at anyone, but we have to understand that the civil rights movement was a failure, and it was part of the destruction of Black wealth. It was part of the destruction of Black wealth. I'm not saying that it was done on purpose. I'm not saying that the men who pushed the civil rights movement did it on purpose. I'm saying that it contributed to part of losing Black wealth, because we fought for two things. We only needed to fight for one thing. We fought for desegregation, and we fought for integration. When we should have just fought for desegregation and not integration. Here's what happened.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
There's a and I'm just talking. I'll let you guys handle the scripture. I'm just talking from a psychological perspective.
No, Jay, we done with scripture. We was going to get into some stuff, so you're leading right into where we going. That's why we're talking about.
When you have Black businesses, Black restaurants, Black schools, but someone comes and say, we want to integrate. Psychologically, it plants a seed that what I have is not good enough and what you have is much better than mine. So now I don't want to eat at our restaurant. I want to eat at your restaurant. I don't want to go to our schools. We want to go to your schools. And we've seen a video of the little Black girl being integrated into the white school and them spitting on it and all that. And I'm thinking, this is absolutely crazy. Like, what was wrong with her school? What was wrong with her restaurants? What was wrong with our businesses? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But psychologically, we were taught theirs is better than ours. They had an all Black water fountain.
Question.
I said,
to your point. Can you explain, help me, even for me with this, the difference between desegregation and you said because I agree with you, integration was crazy for us, but the difference between the two, help me understand that. And I don't know if anybody else don't understand that.
Desegregation is just giving you almost a balanced playing field.
Okay, that's good.
That's basically all this is, just giving you a balance. integration. Now, integration is not bad. What's bad is forced integration. Forced integration. Integration should be a natural thing. It should never be a forced thing. Because when integration becomes a forced thing, psychologically, it tells one person, what I have is not good enough. So we have to fight for something better. And the white restaurant is better than the black restaurant. Equality versus, I'm sorry, I got to have it reading that because sometimes there's some good comments.
Yeah, but that's why I put equity, because you know, and I know we don't see, we haven't always recently seen eye to eye on the whole equity thing, but that's
and
come down with this. Go ahead.
And let me tell you how this, you know, so forced integration psychologically makes us think what somebody else have is better than what I have. And guess what? It hadn't changed since then. Even now, we will spend more money on white designer clothes than black designer clothes.
Yes, we do.
Can I show a 9-minute video to what you guys are talking about?
No, you're not allowed, Gene. Come on, bro.
All right, let me share my screen. Give me a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Jay, for your input with this.
It's the doll test. We all may have seen it, but since you guys are talking about what you're talking about, let me play this. Fair use.
Which doll is the black doll? And which white doll? Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and white.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me.
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
Can you show me the doll that you like best or that you like to play with?
This one. I like that one.
Okay.
This one.
That one?
This one. I like to play with this.
And can you show me the doll that is the nice doll? And why is that the nice doll?
He's white.
And can you show me the doll that looks bad? Okay. And can you and why does that look bad?
Because it's black.
And why do you think that's a nice doll?
Because she's white.
And can you give me the doll that looks like you? "15 out of the 21 children preferred the white doll."
Yeah, that one.
Which one?
This one.
Why do you want that skin color?
Because I don't know. I don't know.
Not sure. What do you think of that skin color?
Well, it looks kind of whitish, and that's all I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? Why do you want that skin color?
Because it looks lighter than this kind, because this looks a lot like that one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just don't like the way brown looks, because the baby brown looks really nasty for some reason, but I don't know what reason. That's all.
So you think it looks nasty?
Well, not really, but sometimes.
Sometimes. And Brielle, they asked what color adults don't like. Do you remember what you said? Which one? That's right. That's what you said. Why do you think adults don't like that color?
Dark.
Dark. And adults, you think adults don't like dark?
Well, maybe some adults do, but maybe some of them don't.
Mm. And then which was the ugly child?
So show me the smart child. Okay, why is she the smart child?
Because she looks like me.
Okay. Show me the mean child. Okay, why is she the mean child?
Because she's way darker.
Okay. Show me the good child. Why is she the good child?
Because I think she looks like me.
Okay. Show me the bad child. Why is she the bad child?
Because she's a lot darker.
Show me the ugly child. Why is she the ugly child?
Because she's like a lot darker.
¿Cuál muñeco es bonito? ¿Cuál muñeco es feo? ¿Cuál muñeco es malo?
Ninguno.
¿Cuál muñeco es malo?
Este.
¿Y por qué?
Porque, bueno, este es moreno y este blanco.
¿Cuál muñeco es feo? ¿Por qué?
Porque a mí no me gusta el color café.
¿Cuál muñeco te gusta más?
Este.
¿Cuál muñeco es bueno?
Este.
¿Y por qué?
Porque no me dan miedo los güeros porque tengo más confianza con si los un poco más así como este. No tengo mucha confianza.
¿Cuál muñeco es malo? ¿Por qué?
No sé.
¿Cuál muñeco es feo?
Este. No sé, es que me parece que está un poquito, ¿cómo te diría? Más moreno y no se ve tan blanco. Y no tiene mucho aspecto.
¿Por qué el muñeco blanco es bueno?
Porque sus ojos son azules y todo su cuerpo es blanco.
¿Cuál muñeco es feo? ¿Por qué?
Porque está negro.
¿Por qué ese muñeco es malo?
Porque está café.
¿Y por qué que este café es malo?
Porque pega.
¿Cuál muñeco te gusta más?
Blanco. Porque sus ojos están bonitos y su raza también.
¿Cuál muñeco se parece más a ti?
Un poquito a este. Es que soy un poquito güerita de mis piernitas y de mis aquí, de mi espalda y de mi carita y mis bracitos los tengo morenitos.
¿Cuál muñeco se parece más a ti?
Este.
¿En qué?
Las orejas. Sí, madam.
Why is she the bad child?
Because she's black.
And why is he the ugly child?
Because he looks like he's white.
Why is he the dumb child?
Because she has dark brown skin.
Why is she the bad child?
Because she makes fun of everybody else's skin color.
Show me the child who has the skin color most adults like.
And show me the child who has a skin color most adults don't like.
Child.
Dumb child.
Okay, why is she the dumb child?
Because she has black skin.
Show me the mean child. Why is he the mean child?
Because he's brown.
Show me the bad child. Why is he the bad child?
Because he's black.
Okay. Show me the ugly child. Why is he the ugly child?
Because he's brown, black.
Show me the child who has the skin color most adults like. And show me the child who has the skin color most adults don't like. Show me the child who...
So before I give it back to you guys, would you guys say, since we're talking about this integration, as humanity, do you guys, could it be possible that this has been woven into our DNA to have these differences and to look at each race a certain type of way? Because you get these little kids who really shouldn't know what they know. Where did this process or this thinking for these kids to be at that time, this is 9 years ago, I hope I'm trying to articulate the psychological aspect for these kids to look at the black kids, to look at the white kids and say they're the prettier ones, they're the smarter ones, and then how they go to these different races or ethnic groups and then have the same understanding. Is it possible to say that thinking is part of our DNA as humanity?
I'm gonna say it's possible, but I don't think that's the reason. I believe what speaks in our DNA is just the opposite. I believe what speaks to our DNA is we are a superior people. We are a royal people. We are a priestly people. I believe that's what speaks to our DNA. I believe what we're watching is part of what we call social engineering. Mm-hmm. You have to go back and study cases like Brown versus the Board of Education, and I think it's Plessy versus Ferguson.
Yeah, Plessy versus. Mm-hmm.
Plessy versus Ferguson. You have to go back and research those things because social engineering is a powerful tool that reshapes the mind of a people. I believe it was all done craftily and on purpose, but it's definitely, I don't see it definitely being part of our DNA, because part of our DNA speaks to just the opposite of that. I believe that there was definitely a campaign to bring down, and this campaign, even though we talk about the 60s, I said, guys, this campaign goes all the way back to like 1945, because we were dealing with the Brown versus the Board of Education way before the 60s. So we have to ask ourselves, and I think we know the answer to this. We have to ask ourselves, why was there a campaign of social engineering to get our people to think like that? And what caused us to buy into it? What caused us to buy into it? We have this saying, and that saying is, those who rule the media rules the minds of the people. Mm-hmm. Those who rule the media rules the mind of the people. So we're here now. We're here where we've decreased from that image that we just watched of those young children looking at the white doll and the black doll and thinking good versus evil, basically. I said, but hold on. That was just a concept. That was just a concept. That was a seed planted. And when a seed is planted, Then it was watered.
Yeah.
Repetition is a powerful tool. Whoever this brother is, I'm loving this brother right here. Whoever this brother is.
I'm surprised Tony hasn't come up. He's another Moray.
Yeah, I don't know. I just keep looking at his comments and I'm thinking this dude is reading my mind. He is on point. Mm-hmm. So what we watched goes back to the 1940s. I said, but guys, that was just a seed. Then that seed was watered through what the brother says called repetition. And now that seed has turned into behavior. Because now we have to address, we way past the mindset of that doll, of the doll experiment. Now we're dealing with a behavior where we disproportionately act a way we shouldn't, according to us being 13 to 15% of the population. We disproportionately act out in ways that we shouldn't. So now that seed that was planted, that was watered through repetition, now has become behavior. Mm-hmm. And these are the things we have to figure out. How do we reverse this? I believe one of the tools, there's many tools to reverse it. Hitler's propaganda minister said, if you tell a lie enough times, exactly. If you tell a lie enough times, people will believe it. When I was in the military, I taught this class called the 7 characteristics of propaganda. That's probably how I can identify propaganda so easily. One of the characteristics of propaganda is through repetition. Repeat something so many times through so many different mediums where the people will receive it. Another characteristic of the 7 characteristics of propaganda is name calling. Whatever you call it so many times, the people will begin to believe it's that. And now we have to find a way to reverse this. One of the tools, because there's many tools to reverse it, but we have to know what those tools are. One of those tools is this tool that the Most High has given us called life and death is in the power of the tongue. Mm-hmm. So even though I grew up without a father in the home, I was raised by my grandparents. I grew up with a mindset of superiority because my grandmother told me I was superior. If you guys haven't watched a video I posted called My Grandmother Told Me I Was Special, go back and watch it. It will help you understand why I'm the way I am. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a poor environment in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. But I grew up with a voice that even in the midst of poverty, even in the midst of crime, my grandmother would always reiterate that I was special. I had a calling on my life, that I was gifted, that I was like God's favorite. So I grew up thinking that just everywhere I went, regardless to my circumstance, I was like, okay, regardless to all of that, this is what has been spoken over me. Mm-hmm. And I believe there's power in what you speak over people, especially over youth. There's power. There's power. And we know this just by practicing it. You could walk through a grocery store and see a woman who looks dejected and say, girl, you look fine today. You look bad. I don't know what's going on, but let me tell you something. You shining. And everything about her would light up. Everything about her would come out of, just for a moment, mm-hmm. It'll come out of that darkness. But when you don't understand these things, you begin to complain. And here's why I speak. I don't speak a lot of oppression. That's because what you speak becomes manifested. Mm-hmm. I don't speak a lot of victimhood. I said, guys, that's the opposite of what the Most High told us to do. I'm not saying we shouldn't acknowledge it. I'm saying psychologically, it gives you an expectation of failure, not expectation of victory. You can't walk in both. You can't be a victim and victorious at the same time. You can't be oppressed and an overcomer at the same time. So, and that comes from the root of me having that mindset come from grandparents who spoke life into me. And I believe what my grandmother said. I believe that I was special. I grew up believing that way.
So let me ask you, to that point, did you have just your grandmother, or was it grandma and grandpa?
My grandfather taught me how to be a man. I had both.
Can you, and then to the point, the reason why I'm asking that is, again, Malachi 4:6 talk about the heart of the father back to the children. And we've talked about this several times, the importance of a male role in the life of the family. Can you even elaborate? Because I had a grandmother just like yours. Gene had a grandmother just like yours. Our grandmothers was off the hook. It sounded like your grandmother was off the hook. I know his grandmother was off the hook. My grandmother was off the hook. With that being said, there was a male presence that also contributed to you being a man. And not only that, but you're very successful in life. Can you talk about the contributions of your grandfather to that? And what did that look like? Especially you are a little bit older than us, and you kind of seen more things than we seen.
Yeah, I was raised in the 60s where Martin Luther King got shot on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. I'm very familiar with that motel. I understand the civil rights. I understand. I remember the Montgomery boycott down in Montgomery, Alabama, which was just a couple of hours down south. I remember when the garbage men went on strike over civil rights. And I remember all of those things. My grandfather is the one who taught me, who gave me my masculine energy. My grandfather was an outdoorsman. He was kind of like a guy who took care of the land for other people. We almost lived on it was somewhat a modern day plantation. I was raised on 364 of the most beautiful acres that you will ever see in your life, land, but we didn't own it. The white family who had a big house on that property owned that land, and there was like 5 little small houses. All black folks lived in that house, little small farmhouses, like a little plantation, and they worked for the white man taking care of the land. That's who my grandfather was. So I was raised around Black Angus cattle and hunting, and fishing, and working with your hands outdoors. Learning how to hunt things and dress things. I got my first shotgun when I was 13 years old. People laugh.
Oh God! Not playing. I ain't gonna do that to you, Jay.
And I actually still have it in there to this day. It looks brand new. I remember the story of what led me to get that gun. Just real quick. I used to hunt with my grandfather, but my grandfather had his shotgun and I just had a little pellet gun, the kind you have to pump like this so many times to get pressure in it, right? And I was frustrated, and I was 12 years old, and I kept asking my grandfather, it's time for me to get my own gun. And he was like, you're too young. So I went hunting by myself. And back then we hunt squirrels. And I was so accurate. I used to take Coke bottle tops and put them on top of fence posts, and I could hit the center of the Coke bottle top with my pellet gun. So one day I was out hunting, and I wanted to kill a squirrel, but I knew the only place to hit the squirrel was in the eyeball. And I literally aimed. He was sitting in a little V of the tree, the little V, eating acorns. And I aimed to hit him in the eyeball. He drops to the ground. I take him home. My grandfather gets home, and he was like, where did this squirrel come from? And I said, I went hunting today. I'm 12 years old. And he said, but how did you kill a squirrel? I said, with my pellet gun. He said, how? Because the squirrel's skin is so tough, you can't kill it with a pellet gun. I said, I shot him in the eyeball. And I'm 12. And he was like, were you aiming for his eyeball? I said, yes, sir. And he said, you shot him in the eyeball? I said, yes, sir. My grandfather just shook his head like, what is going on? Then the next year we went hunting, and a story happened. And my grandfather, my dad actually let me borrow the shotgun, and that's how I got my first gun. But there's a story behind that. My point is, my grandfather taught me how to have masculine energy, how to be a man, how to fend for yourself, how to take responsibility to feed yourself, how to take responsibility of just providing for your family, and all the things that came along with that. My grandmother was the one who actually taught me the word of the Most High and spoke life over me. She was a praying grandmother, but she was also incredibly, I'm talking like almost brutally honest. That's where I get my honesty from. I'm talking, did not mince her words. I mean, sometimes it will hurt your feelings, but she wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. She just believed in being just straightforward, honest. Not saying that everything was perfect, but not saying that they were perfect. But I'm saying that molded me. So even in the midst of everything that was going on around me, schools, because back then, even when I was going to school, there was a strong racial tension. We actually had a race riot. I mean, a race fight in our school where they had to shut down the school for 3 days because this movie came out called Roots. I don't know if y'all remember that. But that movie, that movie in my city caused many fights in the schools the next day, and they actually had to shut down my school. So I grew up in this strong racial tension environment. Plus, I understood the civil rights movement, but there was a mindset that I carried that overruled all that. There was a mindset that I carried that was spoken over my life that overruled all that. And I had things to reinforce that. So to sum up what I wanted to say, we have to get to the root cause of a thing, because guys, you can't unravel a string unless you know how you got it raveled.
So based on your life experience and what, and I have another question. I want to fall back a little bit on your upbringing, but based on your life experience and what you learned, what do you surmise is the thing that has us rattled? The root cause, to Dr. Cuts in the chat. What is the root cause? Especially going back, you even went back to 1945.
Well, right, of where we are right now. Are you asking?
Yeah, like where we are right now? Okay, because I'm very solution focused. I don't like to dwell on what's wrong. I mean, I acknowledge what's wrong, but we got to start moving towards solutions. And you said something to me that's sticking with me. You said it in the chat. You're saying it now. What is the root cause, or what you understand to be the root cause? And that way, maybe we can start talking about solutions from there, because I want to understand, because we are a mess.
Well, I would start with simple things first. I would change our language. I would change how we speak. I wouldn't focus so much on victimhood.
So let me jump in right there. You may surmise that the root cause is basically because of how we think, stinking thinking. It's causing the way we speak, how we speak over each other, how we speak to our kids, etc.
How we speak over ourselves.
Yes, sir. Is that what you are surmising is the root cause then?
I don't think that's the root cause.
Okay. Because this is to my, and you correct me if I want your pushback, because I really want to get this. Like this, to me, this is important. And I'm glad you're here. Anybody else that want to come up, we need to talk about this stuff. to me, it's always been the root cause. To me, has always been our family structure. And go ahead. And if you don't feel that way, I totally respect that. I just want to. We need to have conversations. Go ahead.
When you say our family structure, specifically, what do you mean by that? Like,
I mean, our men. I don't know if you've seen me posting on Facebook. Me and my brothers talked about it. I know you and I have actually talked about it. We as men need to take our houses back, take our families back, take our kids back. And I believe that the condition that I'm seeing out here in these streets is because from an economic standpoint, like with your granddad and your grandma didn't make a lot of money based on what you told us. You came from we had we understand the welfare background. But even if they didn't have the money, he carried enough presence in the home that taught you some principles that now when you even look at your life, there's fruit. There was a firm foundation set there where there's fruit of it, where now you're passing these values on to your kids, and your kids are prospering off of the life that you built. Wise man leaving an inheritance for not only his children, but his children's children, because of the presence of you being in your family. I'm saying when I'm talking about family structure, this is what I'm talking about. We as men stepping up, taking charge, being providers, being these things that we were supposed to be, even when you look at from a Hebraic standpoint, a strong house.
Okay, let me say this.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you, but I agree with you. I agree with you there.
Yes, sir.
First of all, everybody in my family is successful, not just me. My brother is just as successful as I am. My sister who lives in Dallas is just successful as I am. All of us was raised by a grandparent in a house that didn't have indoor plumbing. I had no indoor plumbing until I left home at 18 years old. I grew up sleeping in the same bedroom as my grandmother and my grandfather all the way until I graduated high school. We used the outhouse and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not ashamed for anybody to know my story, but all of us became successful. And I believe part of that was, I never remember my grandmother once talking victimhood, not once. I never heard oppression ever in my house. Never. I never heard us talk about the effects of slavery from the perspective of victimhood. I didn't grow up with that language. I grew up with, and my grandmother was not Torah, but maybe she was, because some of the things she taught me overruled all that. Some of the things she taught us overruled all that. And she always made us take personal responsibility for our actions.
So she was more God focused from a standpoint. Because you said she taught you the Most High. She taught you were special. So she focused more on your spirit, man, and your grandfather focused on your outward, man, and building you up.
Yes,
sir.
So when I say we need to change our language, we have to understand how youth receive the voice of an elder. Sometimes sometimes elders think that I'm hard. I say, guys, I'm not hard. I'm hard because your voice carries power to the youth. Your voice can make the youth feel like they're justified in doing something that's unwise. Or it can make them take responsibility for doing something that is unwise. Because that is a concept that the Most High has given us, which is the power of words, the power of life and death is in what you speak. Not saying that you can't acknowledge a fact. I said, guys, I'm not saying you can't acknowledge a fact, but when you make that fact
An idol.
An idol.
Mm-hmm.
So we change our language. You know, I was at the national AAU tournament this past weekend. That's the national tournament here in San Antonio. It was at the Alamo Dome. 50 teams playing on the court at the same time. 50 teams playing at the same time. That's how big this tournament was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching this one team that has this 8th grader on it who's phenomenal, but his dad is in a wheelchair. His dad is there in a wheelchair. He's wheelchair bound. And this kid is going to the league. If he keeps it up, he's going
Is
to the
he
league.
really 12?
He's bad. Yes. Yes.
He's really 12 years old. I mean, the one I saw was dunking and everything.
No, this is an 8th grader who's a guard.
Oh,
And,
okay. Gotcha.
And I watched his demeanor. So cool, so calm, so collected. No arrogance at all. No bravado at all. And can do whatever he wants. Take control of a game whenever he wants. And after he was done, I went over and I'm watching the family. And I'm watching the family. I'm not just watching the immediate family. I'm watching the extended family.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over and I said, "Boy, you bad to the bone." He was like, "Thank you, sir." And I said, "This your son?" His dad was in a wheelchair. He was like, "Yeah." I said, he going places. He has a special calling on his life. I said, he's going to affect many things, you know, not just basketball. I said, basketball is a gift that he has. But the Most High is going to use it to affect a lot of things. And his dad was receiving it. He was receiving it. I did that because I know the power of what you declare and decree over somebody.
Yes, sir.
I believe one of the things we can immediately start doing is declaring and decreeing things in a different language. I believe we strongly need to get away from this subservient, oppressed victimhood mindset. And I say that because I said, guys, we are further removed from slavery and oppression than they were in the 1920s. But yet we're more affected by slavery and oppression than those in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask yourself why we keep pushing. At the further we move away from it, why do we keep talking about it so much? I know why. Because the powers that be through the media makes us talk about it because they know they've moved far away from this. Their kids are going to PW, predominantly white schools. But if we can keep them psychologically there, we can keep the generations there. We can keep the next generation there.
And I got to kick back just a little bit on what you're saying, because I honestly, I agree with you. But I think when you compare us, and forgive me, Jay, I want to throw it to Brother Tony right after this.
Oh, sure. Oh, great. I would love to hear Brother Tony.
Yeah, but to kick back, the difference between the 1920s and this current cycle generation that we're talking about is, to me, family structure. Because one thing that my kids, we talk about, we may go through stuff, but my kids say we're together, or we go through as a family. So even when we're faced with challenges or hard times, the fact that we're still together, we still go through with joy. We still go through with our heads up. We still go through with strength. There's some times when we go through stuff and it's like, dang, it's frustrating. But when we go through, we never go through defeated, because the wife, the kids, we're all together. And that means, my daughter told me this yesterday, that means more to her than me just being able to go out and buy a car for her or anything like that, because of the values. I wish I could toss it back to you, but out of respect, my brother Tony.
Let me just say this real quick.
Yes, sir. Then throw it to Tony right after Tony. After Jay finish, you go.
I'm in full agreement with you.
Yes, sir.
I'm in 100% agreement that the family structure is probably a key component. But I don't have the ability to go and put 80% of the men back in the houses.
Yeah, that's understood. Yeah.
So I'm talking from what can I do right now? Now, because I don't have the ability to go back and put 80% of the black men who are missing from the house back in the house. So I'm thinking, okay, what power do I have right now? What power do we have right now that we can utilize? And I'll kick it to. So I'm in. Don't think that listen, bro. I'm 100% in agreement with you when you say the family structure. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So don't think that I'm not. Yes, I'm with you 100%. So I want to. I'll kick it to brother Tony, I think.
Hey, brother Tony, if you're talking, you're on mute.
There you go. He came off for a second.
Okay, brother Tony, you might have to go back out and come back in. And as soon as you come back in, we'll kick it back to you. Go ahead, brother Jay.
Yeah, so I'm in full agreement with you, man. The family structure is key. Now we can talk about how do we rebuild the family structure, but I'm talking an immediate something we can start doing tomorrow. So I'm just talking about a perspective of what can I do right now?
Yes, sir.
To begin to shape.
To your point, then.
Okay,
forgive me. I'm not trying to be. I love this conversation. To your point, when you talk about what we can do now, what does that verbiage look like? From because I want to commit to that kind of verbiage that can help change the minds and the hearts of my young generation, of even my current generation, if they will listen. We talk about how hard it is often, but what does that look like when we had that dialogue? If we'll hold the question, then if brother Tony can talk. Are you able to talk, brother Tony?
Tristan, can you hear me?
Okay.
We can hear you, brother Tony.
We'll come back to that, brother.
Had it on the wrong mic, man. Had it on the wrong mic. No, I wanted to sort of add to what y'all was saying. Y'all using the words family structure, and what comes to mind is family continuity, or I would say father continuity. The continuity from 1920 through the generations, that's what has actually deteriorated. If you start thinking about that, you know, so we're kind of saying the same thing, but if you think about it, so how do we fix that? And to me, we have to go back to what works. What works. And you can't, like you said, there's fathers in jail, there's uncles that aren't, there's us on this call that aren't. And so it's actually a heavier call. We got to do more. It means when you see someone's son, and I'm gonna talk about Eugene over here. He spoke life into my son when we did Passover, and that means I'm not too prideful as a father to let another man that I know is a man that's a father to speak a fatherly word into that. And so some people ain't gonna be able to hear this show, and they're not gonna be able to hear this thing. But I just want to say this too: the greatest father is the one that's in our scriptures, right? He's a father to the fatherless, and he tells us if you want to get some wisdom because you don't have a grandfather. And by the way, brother, I had a grandfather the same way. He taught me how to be a gentleman. He taught me how to hunt, how to cook, how to be a man, and I need nobody else necessarily, right? But what I'm saying is we got to not be prideful and learn how to be humble but strong at the same time, and that word is meek. It's meek. We got to become meek. And so the fatherless need us. We have to go and find them. We have to invite them. We have to not be afraid of them because they think that we're afraid of them. Like the young men that are out there, they operate off of fear. But fear, I don't have fear. I don't fear a man. I just don't. Right? I don't fear, and I especially don't fear young men because I trust in the one that brought me here, that taught me the things that I know. And so if we can restore the continuity of fatherhood in whichever way possible, which is Hebraic, if you think about it, when a father died and if he had a brother, he had a call to do what? To go be a father to that family until maybe that wife was married again or something like that. but that was a requirement. And I think we're sometimes fearful to do it because we think we can't. We think we're already carrying too much and we can't carry more. And I think that's a lie, because if we do that, we're now allowing ourselves to stand in the place where we're calling ourselves the former house, which is an honor to be the former house, because it means that you now have a latter house to reflect the wisdom and the life experiences that you can pass on. And so I believe what Jay is saying about how the words that you use. Proverbs has so many good words and phrases and things that you can learn. Praying over those brothers and letting them hear you say it aloud. Don't just tell somebody I was praying for you. Pray with them. Let them hear the positive energy and words, because it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. It starts with prayer, but we think it just means silent prayers, meditating. We need that for ourselves, but these young men need to hear these prayers. They need to hear the elders pray aloud over them and to them and through them, so that they know this is now a declaration, right? And if I can't do it, if you submit yourself to this, wonderful things begin to happen, because that's a promise. And if we can't rely on those promises, we lack faith. So, I just wanted to say that because it's about continuity. And so I can speak to that because I'm remarried. I have 2 sons that I had to figure out how to get to them when their mother didn't let me get to them. I could have been weak and let that just be. Oh, well, it just is what it is. That's not what I did.
Come on, Tony.
I didn't sulk in my own issues, my own things that I lacked. I pulled myself up and I said, I am their father, and no one is going to keep me from them. Period. So I spoke to them. I prayed with them. I prayed to them. I prayed through them, and I'm still doing it today. And so there's many young men that I have been in their lives. And so that's why I said when Eugene was talking to mine, I was totally cool with that. I think that's the model of what we as men that are also fathers need to get back to. And I will yield there.
Beautiful.
Tony, let me tell you something. You took the words right out of my mouth, man. All of us, here's what we got to understand about men. All men have a little boy in them.
True.
Looking for somebody to speak to. Even I do. And
that's true.
I don't know if y'all can see this. Hold on, let me see this. I don't know if y'all can see this. This is the message I sent my son. I sent it at 7:00. My youngest son, Jonathan, who's 24 years old, I said, you are my son and I love you. I wish I would have done some things different, but I pray my heart was right. I pray that my heart was in the right place and I wanted the best for you. You are very gifted and God has a special plan for you. I will always be here for you. I sent that to my youngest son because my youngest son was here this weekend and we went fishing. He was here with my nephew and I was being kind of hard on my nephew because he needs to correct some things, but my son thought I was being too hard on him. And he brought up how hard I was. My son thought I was being too hard on my nephew. And then he brought up some things that I guess me being hard on my nephew kind of triggered my youngest son a little bit. He said, Dad, you were hard on me. And I tried to express this weekend to my son, I wasn't trying to be hard on you. I was trying to bring out the things that I saw in you that you may have not seen in yourself. Now, granted, I may have gone about it the wrong way. I may have pushed you too hard, but my heart was in the right place. I say that because it's not just what we say, it's how we say it.
Sound like my kids.
Because your heart you could be pushing your child towards something that's good for them, but you have to understand the pressure that how some children, it's kind of like coaching basketball, right? I had some players, if I got on them, they were stepping their game up to the next level. But then I had some players, if I got on them, they was breaking down. I would have to pull them out of the game because they couldn't take the pressure I was putting on them. So when you're dealing with even speaking into somebody's life, you have to speak according to knowledge and understanding of who they are. And I will end with this. I spent 2 years straight, every Friday, 2 years straight, doing prison ministry. I would drive from San Antonio to Hondo, Texas, to the Joe Knott prison unit. And I ministered to young men, grown men, every Friday for 2 years straight. I watched those men literally break down in tears. And that's when I understood the power of what you say, and how you say it.
How you say it, yeah.
And whether you speak in life or whether you speak in death, whether you speak in whether you are speaking what I call prophecy, or whether you're speaking what I call digression. I said you can't do both you can't do both. You have to live in one or the other when it comes down to where you plan on taking your people. So family structure is key. Family structure is key. But I agree with Tony. We're at a time now with 80% of men gone. We have to be fathers to those who don't have fathers. I watched somebody posted earlier. They said they want correction.
They do.
I know they do, because when I was a store manager for Walmart, when I was training to be the store manager for Walmart, I was in Converse, Texas, where their Walmart is located, which is not a good side of town. And me and the store manager, who's a Caucasian man, is standing on the outside of the store. 3 Black youth walk up with their pants sagging. And I'm talking sagging. And I stopped them and I said, are y'all available? And they were like, well, what are you talking about? I said, are y'all available? Like, are you available? And they said, what are you talking? And the white guy's looking at me. The white store man is looking at me. I said, are you available? Are you advertising yourself to me, telling me you available? If you are, I don't roll like that. And they were like, what you talking about, bro? I said, you got your pants sagging, bro. I said, that's how those in prison tell another man that they're available. I said, so I just want y'all to know, bro, I don't roll like that. And they were like, bro, we don't roll like that. I said, then pull your pants up. And I said, if y'all need belts, I got belts in the store. Go and pick out whichever one you want, take it to the counter, and I'll pay for it for you. They pulled their pants up immediately, went in the stores and got belt. The white guy asked me, he said, what was that all about? I said, it's called correction. I said, this is how, and he was like, you're not afraid to speak to them that way? I said, these are my people. That's what I told him. He said, you're not afraid to speak to them that way? I said, these are my people. They understood. And here's what I understood. Young men know the voice of fathers.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They do.
Young men know the voice, even though they may have not had a father, they know the voice of a father when they hear it.
They do.
They know the voice of authority, and they can rightfully judge if the authority is trying to help them or hinder them. There's something that the Most High has put in them to be able to gauge those things. So we have to be fathers to the fatherless, basically. We have to be fathers to the fatherless. And we're always going to have those that you can't figure out. You're always going to have those who we're going to ask the question, what happened? While I was at the tournament this weekend, I got a report about one of the players I used to train. I used to train him when he was in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade. And one of the brothers said, they said he's doing 20 years now. And I was like, what? He had his mother and father in the house, and I'm talking in a wealthy house with money. And I say he's doing 20 years. But I remember this kid was hard to deal with the whole time, and I never could understand, like, what makes this young kid so rebellious? He has a mother and father in the house. And then as I was talking to the brother this weekend, he was like, because he's related to his parents, and he was like, all of his uncles are rowdy. His mother's brothers have all done prison time. And following in the footsteps of them, even though he's raised in a nice household. So many times we have to be, and this is where I'll pause. Many times we have to be fathers, even to those who have fathers, because there's something for some youth where they would listen to another father before they listen to their own father.
That's true. To your point, it's interesting you say that, because I know me and our brother, we deal with some things in Chasers. And I will say this to what you and Brother Tony, and I know what you're saying is right. I had a kid I used to work with. I haven't seen him since 2008. He last year inboxed me and wished me Happy Father's Day, because I was the only real father. And I was tough on this kid because he was just acting a fool, but that's another thing. But with that being said, he called me and wished me Happy Father's Day because he said his foster mother and me were the only voices that he heard at that time that would tell me, you can't get away with acting like this. Even the cops will get a hold of you and they're going to treat you rougher than what I treated him. I'm not going to front. I didn't do a lot of pushing. I disciplined him. But with that being said, to the point of what you brought up a little bit ago, and Tony, if you care to speak to it, when we talk about your interaction with your what was it, your nephew or
my nephew?
What was his family structure like? If you don't mind being a little open with that, and if that's too intrusive, please tell me.
My nephew family structure is is very good. My nephew is my nephew lives in a beautiful, he's the only child, lives in a beautiful neighborhood in a beautiful house. Hadn't had to pay for much of anything. His parents bought him a car. He's gone to the best basketball camps, gone to some of the best schools. But he's easily influenced, not by those around him who's positive. For some reason, he's easily influenced by those around him who's negative. And I just had this conversation with my family last night. I said, here's what I need to do. I said, give me some time to do some research on, because one of the things, I'm not just a Torah teacher, I'm a therapist. And sometimes, you have to, granted, I understand the Torah, but sometimes I have to meet people where they are. And I'm like, okay. I said, give me some time to study this case, meaning, what about the child who has everything? What about the child who has the good mother, masculine, good father, all the opportunities in the world, good community, good education, everything, but yet
it happens.
Still chooses to go down this road. So I'm studying that case right now, but I'm not just studying on my own. I actually called a brother of mine who's a therapist to help me. I was like, help me to figure out this case. But this is a personal case for me.
Right.
He's one of those ones where it just goes into one ear and speaks out the other. He's one of those ones who tell you what you want to hear, but he's still going to do whatever he wants to do.
And you know what? To your point, forgive me for being rude with that. It happens. I had a cousin back in New York that died my freshman year in college. And growing up, I just would have thought he would have never hit the streets the way he did, because you look at the house, the neighborhood, the area. I mean, they look like they lived on a ranch. I mean, It was crazy. I mean, his dad, a well-known pastor, minister, his mom played the organ, music. I mean, everything. And I looked at him like, dude, like you got everything. But yet there was this connection, or this desire to be connected to the streets. The reason why I asked the question to the point of what I was trying to ascertain from you is my son has corrected me on how I deal with cousins in our ministry, in the family, that don't have the family structure he has. He reminds me repeatedly, Dad, you gotta go easy on this cousin. Gotta be different with this cousin. This cousin's not used to hearing the father's voice. And I've had to step back or tone back because I can come across a little, I guess, verbose. Well, you know, Jay, you check me. Like, I can come across like that, and I'm not meaning harm, but at the same time, he reminds me they're not used to hearing a man's voice like that.
Yeah.
And so, to the point, Brother Tony, I don't know if you want to intervene. I know Gene is in his element. He'd come in when he want to. But what do y'all think about that from the standpoint? A lot of these young men are not used to hearing the male's voice.
For me, brother, it's kind of what my assembly studied this last night about the family is made up of a house. If you look at the bet and all of the the titles and the house, right? And so like it's about, like you say, reordering the house. And so like within that house, the when you talk to a young man differently than you talk to a young lady, it's still your job as a father, whether you're the father figure or father actual by biological or whatnot. It's your requirement to take the time, as my brother was just saying, to study not just the word, but the person that the Most High sent to you, right? To study them, because see, people know whether or not you're paying attention to them. If the Most High says they love and honor me with their lips, but their heart's far from me, like that's not just sounds cool, but if you think about it, we're created in his image. So we had that very same ability to be able to sense and know when somebody is like really not listening to you, really ain't feeling you. And so it is our call as kings or as priestly kings for us to be able to reason out things, to be able to understand, to actually find the hard things that everybody else ain't willing to stay up to 3 a.m. trying to, figure out why this person is doing what they're doing, why they're saying what they're saying, whether that's the scripture or an actual person standing in front of you. When you go and meet that person after you done did that, it's all over you. That glory is all over you. And I think there's a passage where it says, boast not in thyself, but let another one do it.
Yes, sir.
I used to struggle with that until I realized, like, oh, he wants us to give glory to each other, right? That's encouragement. That's the type of encouragement. And so, like, when I started to realize, like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to be out here tearing everybody down, walking in guile and all of that, like that kind of thing. But as I put in a little chat there, I was like, a vegan pig is still gonna be unclean. So how do you know when you talk?
Laugh out loud at that, Tony.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm just saying, brother, because like that, like we try to do like in Acts 10 where it talks like the Most High is telling them, it's like, you basically, I'm just gonna summarize it. Basically, he's telling you, like, you don't go around trying to tell somebody what they are because you haven't been around. You don't know them. Peter, you don't know Cornelius. Cornelius, you don't really know Peter. So how you gonna go around calling one clean, unclean, one common, and all this other stuff like that? We have to go back to the Most High and ask him to reveal those things to us. We all have. Yeah. It's not a gift to have discernment. It's a tool, people. I be telling my people that all the time. Stop. I remember when people say you got the gift of discernment. No, it's not a gift. Everybody has it. It's just some people's tool is dull because you don't stay up to 3, or my brother say 6. I ain't done that in a long time. Getting a little old. I can't stay up to 6 no more. But I stay up to 2 or 3 on something that really matters to me because I want my tool to be sharp. Yes, I want you know what I'm saying? I want, when I go to swing one time, I don't want to have to keep hacking at something. I want to cut right through it. I don't want to play with that thing. And so the Most High says, study to show yourself approved before him. That's not just a word. It's each other, right? Are we not the vessels that carry the word with us? Are we not the vessels that carry those things? So that scripture ain't just talking about the Logos word that's in the book. It's also talking about the rhema word that we bring to one another, like we pouring into each other tonight. And we should be encouraging each other to continue to endure, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is the one of the solutions is it's a phased approach. It's not one magic pill. It's not one silver bullet. It is we didn't get here overnight, and so we're not gonna heal our land overnight. We got to turn back. We got to turn from out. We got to recognize what's wicked and turn from that. And when we see somebody sagging, walking, looking wicked, to let them know that you got if you see something that looks like sin, you got to resist it. These brothers didn't know they was looking wicked, walking around advertising, as you said, right? They didn't know that. You had to let them know. And because it was truth, they had to accept that power. There's no denying that. It's just the truth, right?
Salakia. So to the point, because I think you and Jay are definitely saying the same thing. And for the sake of time, I hope you guys, would you guys mind coming back in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I don't mind. I definitely don't mind. Let me say this, because I want to say something that he said that's very important.
Yeah, let me say that real quick, and I'm gonna throw it right to you.
I thought you were getting ready to close. Okay.
Yeah, because here's what, and that's we're about to do this. I want you guys to come back if you guys are willing. I want you guys to come back in a couple weeks, and I'm just going to leave the conversation open. I'm not even going to have a plan with it. Like, we were going to talk about the financial impact of a father in the home, but the fact that this just happened so organically, I really appreciate you brothers bringing this. And Jay is really saying what Tony is saying, how we verbalize. Right now, the best thing we can do is verbalize, because it's going to be a lot of work to get men back in the home. With that being said, let me throw this to you, Jay. You have your final say. Tony, you have your final say. And we'll just wrap up from there. Moray laptop booted him out, so he's in the audience. But you guys go ahead and carry us on out. And I look forward to continuing this conversation with you guys in a couple of weeks, if you guys are willing, the Most High willing. I yield to you, Jay.
What Brother Tony said is key. You got to study who you're dealing with, because sometimes we think something is a disciplinary problem or a behavior problem, when it simply could be a lack of validation problem. When a child has not been validated, they act out in certain ways to get attention and validation, even in a negative way.
Yeah.
And many times we could discipline them and they don't change. And we wonder, I've done everything. Because discipline, they don't have a disciplinary problem. They have a lack of validation problem. And once they become validated, then everything changes. I know that because that was my what I had to learn with my stepdaughter, with my adopted daughter. At one time, I thought she had a behavior problem and nothing worked. Then the Most High showed me one day, she doesn't have a behavioral problem. She has a validation problem. Just constantly, consistently validate her. When I began to do that, everything changed. Years of trying to discipline her, punishing her, taking away this, taking away that, none of it worked. The last thing I want to share is, we talked about how a mother and father can tell a child the same thing. Don't let nobody put their hands on you, right? This is where Proverb 1:8 says this. It says, listen to the instructions of your father, and follow the law of your mother. Hold on. What do you mean?
That's good.
And I believe it says, listen to the instructions of your father, follow the law. The mother can tell you what to do. The instructions tell you how to do it. So yes, the mother can say, don't let nobody touch you, put their hands on you. That's the law of the mother. And that's a good law. But the father has to come and give the instruction of that. It's almost an ordinance to that. But not if it's the police. But not if it's this. But not in this situation. Here's how you handle this situation. But not in this particular case here. Here's how you handle this case. So the family, so you need both. The family structure is both. Trying to unite the masculine and the feminine, trying to unite the ordinance or the law versus how you conduct yourself in this situation. So all those things are important. I thank Brother Tony, man. He was right on point with how I was thinking tonight. And this is a conversation that's deep to my heart because you know, we all have children, but I've spent a lot of time watching the youth and dealing with the youth and prison ministry and everything else. And structure. I look at how sometimes a child can be in an unstructured place and it causes them to have poor behavior because the environment that they're in has no structure to it. And there's a lot of testimonies and stories that I'll share at a different time about the effects of structure and even how prison gives men structure and they come out looking different a lot of times. I had to learn that, but in prison ministry, I said, why are they so orderly here? But they weren't on the outside. It's because now they're in something that forces them to have a structure to it. And structure produces a certain behavior. That's why the military is so successful for some people who come from the hood, because it gives them a certain structure. So there's a lot that we could talk about that, but thank you for this opportunity tonight. Thank you for this conversation.
Appreciate you, big brother. Appreciate you. Go ahead, Brother Tony.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be
just
short.
say what you gotta say. You know, what you gotta say.
Man, listen, I didn't a lot has changed the last time I was on y'all's platform, as you know. And
we lost a big moment.
Yeah, we did. But you know, you see what's happening here. Do you see what's happening here? It's like he the Most High put him where he needed to be so that these kind of things could happen. I know it sounds like this the wrong thing to say, but it's not. It's that we're having to endure. We had to continue doing what we're doing as men. And I was going to talk about it from that perspective and just say, I'm looking forward to more fellowship because I'm not going to forsake this fellowship of the brethren. I need this anointing. This anointing gives me what I need to be able to give what others need. I recognized that a while ago that I don't have it all. I'm not going to get it all. But when I'm around my brothers and we mean business, and meaning business don't mean we trying to fight each other, but we do have a common enemy, you know. And so I'll just leave this to you and you guys. I was like, I'm looking at Deuteronomy 28 and I'm asking, when you look at Deuteronomy 28, do you only see the curses? Do you see yourself only as a cursed man, or do you see yourself as one that's blessed? And,
yes.
You know, and so the duality of it is not a duality at all. In fact, the singularity of it is choose you this day who you're going to serve. Are you going to be obedient to that master that says, if you hearken these words, these instructions, right? Then you get verses 1 through, what is it, 14.
Yes.
Besides, you're going to turn from it. What you going to get? You're going to get those curses. And then we look at that and wonder why. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say, go back and try to find yourself in that. The Most High will reveal himself there for you, because some of us feel guilty because we're walking a blessed life. You feel like, well, I guess I must not be of the seat. No, I'm being obedient. And I want everybody else to start being obedient. That's why my call is to be a priest. And I've accepted my priesthood and my brotherhood with my fellow brothers. And with that, I just love you guys. I don't mind saying that. Binyai, you know I love you, man. And I'm just now meeting this brother here. I don't know if I can call you JP yet, but Jay, I look forward to many more discussions and encouragements. As you said a lot of wonderful things this evening, and I appreciate your Ruach, brother. All praise.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to meeting more conversations with you, man.
Indeed. If I may, I don't know if you guys want to connect with each other. If you guys want to connect, I'm putting y'all like literally on the spot. I can forward you guys information if you guys are fine with that.
Ben, yeah, you know I'm good. Come on, man. Come on
Yeah,
now.
I mean,
You ain't
I don't
never-
want to assume it.
Come
I
on,
don't want to think presumptuously. I know that you guys tend to be, but I just putting it out there. I can,
listen, long as my brother ain't trying to send me some extended car insurance, I'm good.
if anything, Jay gonna send you Torah.
Yeah, man. Whoever's listening, when you guys have a chance, go and watch the video I posted called "My Grandmother Said I Was Special," and how that conversation has gotten me through some of the darkest, most painful times in my life. You know, I mean, I kind of opened up a little bit in that video, just letting people know, even to this day, like I can still, when I'm going through some of the darkest times, I can still hear the voice of her saying, but guess what? You have to overcome because you're special, and the Most High looks at you as one of his favorites, so he ain't not gonna leave you here. And it pulls me out of a place that nobody even knows I'm in. I'm talking while I'm shooting videos and people thinking you're great. I'm thinking, yeah, they think everything is fine. They don't know I'm in here in this closet on the floor going through one of the toughest times of my life, but I still got to minister to the people. So I go back. I go back to that voice that spoke life over me that says, but you can't stay here because you're called by him and you have to rise out of these ashes. And I'm thinking my grandmother's been gone, but the life that was in her voice still speaks to me. So when you guys get a chance, just watch the video called "My Grandmother Said I Was Special." And
what is your Facebook handle so everybody that don't know you?
It's Torah Way JP.
Torah Way JP. That's how you spell Torah and how you spell Way and JP. That's how you can get access to his page. So go ahead and please check that out. So, with that being said, again, big shout out to my brothers. I love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all. Jay, you know how I am. I'm pesky. Thank you for allowing me to kick back at you on some things to really answer questions and stuff like that. Brother Crenshaw, you already know, brother. Thank you for your spirit. Thank you for your addition. Don't ever feel like y'all are not welcome on this platform to bring y'all wisdom, your counsel, your knowledge, because it's needed. And I really appreciate the dialogue. With that being said, we thank you guys for joining us tonight on Taking a Deeper Look. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to my brothers. We're going to be back and we're going to address this topic in 2 weeks. Next week, we will be talking out of One Flesh. 1 Samuel, is love enough? When love is not enough? We're going to talk about that. And so that should be an interesting dialogue from a marital standpoint. So we'll be swapping Deeper Look and One Flesh every other week in order to, because, I know that my brother has a wife and, things that he does outside of this, me too. So we're trying to learn balance. There will be random edifications that we will bring, but we're really trying to limit ourselves to consistently being available on these days in order for us to also be available off these days. So with that being said, we love you. We thank you. Shalom, family.
Shalom. Take care. Shalom. Blessings.